Welcome to Eastlake Online. This is a condensed version of what we do live every Sunday at the Uptown Theater. We know it's not always possible or even preferred to be a part of what we do in person, so that's why we made this. Thanks for checking it out. In just a minute, someone is going to give a short talk that hopefully resonates with you and helps you interpret what it might mean to follow in the way of Jesus, because that's what this community is all about. Figuring out what it might look like to live life the way that Jesus did, except in our current context with like cell phones and self-driving cars and stuff. We're a community where everyone is invited, included, and involved no matter what. And though our physical location is in the budding metropolis of the Tri-Cities, wherever you're watching this from, we want to invite you to bring a bit of heaven into your part of the world. Thanks for catching us on the interwebs. If you're looking for more content, follow us on social media or keep checking our website for all kinds of resources that we hope are helpful. And now, this.
Hasn't been bright in a while.
Well, good morning and welcome to Eastlake, and welcome to Eastlake Online. For those of you who are watching online or on replay, we're so glad that you're here. If you're a guest with us, you picked a fantastic day to come check us out. We are on part 5 of a series we're calling OMG. It's a series on idolatry, which I know does not feel all that relevant because idolatry doesn't feel like something we're like, yeah, I just struggle with idolatry. You've never said that to a friend, ever. You've never done that. And we're not talking about like, you have hidden idols in your basement. Let's get them out. Let's do this. It's something different. Idolatry in this vein or in this thought pattern or whatever is the good things in life that you make into the ultimate things, and you build your life around this one thing, and then it's such a big thing, and then when it leaves, when she says, I want a divorce, when the job says we no longer need your services, and you've built your entire life around something, you're like, not like, oh, that sucks. You're like, I'm in despair mode. I'm in inconsolable sorrow is in despair is where I find myself in. And so that we have this like weird tendency in life to take really good things and to make them ultimate things, and thereby ruining them and ruining us as well. We do this with love. We said at the very beginning, like there's like so many authors that talk about how all of these things that used to be done in the name of God are now done in the name of love. The love is the plot line for every good movie that you've ever watched. You'll be like, you know what this is missing? A really good love story. Because love will justify all kinds of, why did he act in that way? Why did he do this? Why did he take on that adventure? Because of love. Well, okay, that makes sense for us, right? All of these things that used to be done in the name of God, that offered us a sense of transcendence, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose in life. We're looking for these things, these God-shaped voids in our life, and we fill them with just about everything that we can, which includes we'll do crazy things in the name of love. And we said it's not just love. Sometimes it's money, just the pursuit of money. We're just invited to like chase money because money's going to solve all the problems. So we make the pursuit of money the most important thing ever, and then when we lose the job, we're like, what's going to happen to us? We feel like our sense of security is gone when there's a lack of income coming in. And then finally, this last week, we said this idea of power being a control. I want to be able to control things. I want to say that I'm the one that says something and somebody's got to go do something. I'm the one with influence, or I feel like I can manipulate things the way that I want them to go, and when that's gone, when we are out of control, we're just like we're lost. So those have been the kind of the things so far for us: transcendence, meaning, and purpose. What is it that we love? What is it that we trust? And who do we obey in that way? Today, I want to continue this series. So we're going to do one more of these object things that I think that we have a tendency to build our lives upon, and then when it's swept out, it's a great idol for us. And then next week is the conclusion of the series. We'll tie a bow around it. We'll take communion together and move on to the next series. But today I want to talk about the idol of success, or the idol of winning or achievement, or strengthening our resume, which doesn't sound like a bad thing. In fact, it's not. Like I've said, all of these things are good things, but when you make them ultimate things, they become bad. The idea of wanting to choose to pursue something and to say, my ability to stay busy or to achieve or to do, to keep winning in life is what's going to be the thing that kind of makes me feel good and makes me feel like I've got a place to belong in this world. It sounds a little bit like power and control, so let me clarify the difference. Power and control oftentimes have to do with positions of authority. Like I'm the boss here, right? Well, I'm the HOA president. And I could tell you, and those things are temporary. They can kind of come and go. When it comes to this, you don't have to have a position of authority to feel like achievement is my idol. You just have to idolize busyness and productivity in your life. You find yourself going to parties and be like, what's up? How's it going? Catching up with people and be like, how's things been in your life? And you're like, busy. And you're like, me too, busy. We're just like, oh, you busy? I'm busy. That's crazy. We're both busy, man. That's great. Good for you. Stay busy, right? And we talk about how I can't wait for life to slow down. And then we experience an 18-month slowdown and we're like, get out of this, get out as fast as I can. I got to get busy again, right? So we think it's bad, but then we just pride ourselves on achievement. And we keep going, we keep going. And it's always like, we tell ourselves, well, as soon as I achieve this level of achievement, then I'll be fine and everything will be good. But it's just we never settle down. Here's what we do. We feel bad because we watch post-game reporters interview athletes about the game, and they say, man, you were great tonight. That's awesome. What are you going to do this next week or tomorrow in your next game? And the athlete, what do they say almost all the time, right? Well, I'm just trying to enjoy tonight. Like, this was like, I put it all out on the field. My body is like broken. I got to take a few days to heal, and then I'll come back next. Or after they win this championship, you just won the championship. How are you going to win next year too, right? And you're like, hey, I'd like to kind of enjoy the fact that I just invested 12 months of my life into this achievement, and we won the Super Bowl, and I got to take my kids to Disneyland right now, and I don't want to be answering your questions about next year, but we do this constantly, and we feel bad about this athlete being asked this question, but then we also think about to ourselves, we sit around with our friends and be like, when was the last time Rihanna put an album out? It's been a while, huh? What's the deal with her? Why is she taking so long to do this? It's been 2012 since her last album. That's kind of ridiculous. Are you lazy, Rihanna? What's happening here? I need more Rihanna in my life to be able to make this thing happen, and you're just slacking. And artists talk about this all the time. I put my heart into this album, and they go, well, what are you going to do with the next one to kind of make it even better than this one? And they're like, I don't know, man. This is the best I had. Like, can I just not think about it for a while? There was a biography kind of done, an article in New Yorker that came out a few years ago about the Jewish filmmaker Sidney Pollack, who made such films as like The Firm. He was pretty popular. If I named some of the other films, you'd be like, oh, I get it. I've seen some of those, and I like those. And the interview was with him and with his, towards the end of life, refusing to kind of retire and let his whole kind of all of his stuff speak for itself. He kept feeling like, I need to produce. And his family's like, it's killing him. He's like, he's constantly working. He refuses to retire because he doesn't want his corpus, his body of work to kind of speak for itself. He wants to continually add to it. And we watched him kind of just overwork himself with this achievement sort of thing. And even in his own words, he would say this, every time I finish a picture, I feel like I've earned my stay for another year or so. But then after about a year or two, people start going, well, what's next? What's next? And it's like this itch that I've got to scratch. I've got to jump back in. I've got to re-enter into this vicious cycle of productivity at all costs and achievement at all costs. And I'm not saying we should all be lazy and not do anything. I'm just saying that there is an easy way for this to kind of get out of hand and out of whack. And by the way, I think the church is in a unique position to be able to be a voice, a clarion call of, hey, watch out for this. Because in so many of these different areas, in the area of love, in the area of money, power and control and influence, culture just tells us always more. The church goes, hey, there's a dark side to always pursuing this as a more thing at all costs. Beware. You can make this into something that eventually kind of, you were built for something different. Like that craving, that desire, that's not going to go away. That's in you. That's a core part of your being. But that space was reserved for a God who created you, whose sense of your sense of self-worth should be about what he has to say about you, not about how much money can I achieve, what kind of love can I get, and how much can I achieve on my resume to kind of be, to point to this. Like that desire is not going to go away, but it's just a misdirected love, as Augustine would say. Misdirected love, disordered love, and an improper way of doing things. So, in case you're kind of on the fence about like this idol sort of behavior success being something that's a struggle for you, I came up with sort of 3 different indicators that might help. So like either a self-evaluation, or if you came with somebody that you know and loves you and knows you or whatever, and their elbows are pointy, then you can kind of figure out maybe if this is something you should listen to and or pass this along to somebody who is. But 3 key indicators of having a success idol. Number 1 is a heightened sense of security. A heightened sense of security. When achievement for you is the method of life, what happens in life a lot of times is that you're successful and you've been able to kind of get your way through life and solve all of your problems by buckling down and trying harder, by putting in more hours, by making more money, by doing all of the things that creates a sense of stability and security and safety in life. And you think safety can be achieved if I can work hard enough. And if there is ever instability, if there's ever bad news, if there's ever consequences, if there's ever things that come out of your way that are external problems that are affecting you, the words that you begin to say is, that's not fair. Life's not fair. I should be able to work myself out of this. And it's not something sometimes that you can work yourself out of. And your spouse or your significant other or your family is trying to be like, hey, it's okay. We'll figure this out. But don't get lost. Don't lose yourself in this whole thing. Like, I need you here. Don't go crazy in terms of trying to overwork this thing or overwork your problems. Heightened sense of security. Number 2 is an inflated view of your abilities. Now, this one's hard to see in the mirror, but this is when somebody who's really good at something then takes it to think that they're really good at everything. They're super good at like nuclear energy waste, and so they think that they're really good at politics and school politics and education stuff, and you know, they have opinions on just about everything because they have this inflated view of their abilities in this way, right? So you're not going to see this, but somebody else is going to be like, hey, did you listen to that talk today? Point number 2, did that resonate at all? Or, right? They're trying to say something to you, okay? You're highly opinionated in this way, and you think my achievements have led to success in this area. Why could I not outwork everybody in this area as well? Inflated view of your abilities in that way. And lastly, an addiction to the best or nothing. I know that that's the mantra for Mercedes-Benz. This is not a commercial or you're like, I have to buy that car. I'm just saying this is the idea that if I'm not the best at something, I don't want to participate in it. It's like, you're practicing golf, you think you're really good, then you go out with somebody who's better than you, and you're like, I'm putting the clubs away, I'm never playing again, right? This is just so frustrating to try so hard. If I can't play at the level I want to play at, I won't play at all. My body used to be able to do this in high school. And now I know I'm probably doing this more for exercise than for I'm not trying to earn a scholarship, I'm just doing it for exercise. But I used to be able to dunk. Now used to be able to touch the net, the bottom of the net, right? And now I can't even do that. And so then it's like, fine, I'm out. I just want to live with the dreams and not the dreams because they actually happen, but the memories, I should say, of when I used to be good and when I used to be able to, anyways, whatever. There's a story of a guy in the Bible who struggled with this idolatry, but we're going to look at it. It shows up in the Old Testament. There's, this New Testament, Old Testament, 2 sections of the Bible. And within each of these 2 covenants or canons or whatever are different genres of literature as well. So you've got in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, it's the Torah, which is law. Then you've got some history, then you've got some prophets, and then you've got some wisdom literature, Psalms, Proverbs, and all that stuff. So the book of 2 Kings is one of those historical, this is the story about the nation of Israel, how they immigrated from Egypt into the promised land. Then they had kind of like a civil dispute. They separated into a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom, and then how they kind of expanded and contracted based on the surrounding nations around them, and then invaders from the north, invaders from the east, and all that kind of stuff. So in these history books, in 2 Kings, one of these history books, it shows up in the form of a narrative. There's a story about a guy named Naaman. He's the protagonist in our story, but as you'll see, he's not the hero. We'll figure this out as we go. 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1, if you're following along. This is also on if you download our app in the notes section. If I go through this too fast and you want to look at this later, this is in the notes section of this. All right. Now, Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram, which is, by the way, a neighboring country in the north of Israel. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. This is, by the way, an Old Testament way of saying that the Yahweh God of Israel was not just the God of Israel, he was the God of the entire world. So success in all these areas is not because their gods were successful. God blessed them in this way and they were successful. He's making a comment in here about this because for most of them, the ancient way of thinking was each nation has their own gods. We're going to go to battle and fight over land. Whoever wins, their God must be greater because he granted them favor in this area and you not favor, so our God's better than your God, right? But this way is saying that God gave you success in all of these different areas. He was a valiant soldier. He had everything going for him. He was the words that are used to describe him in this way is like a prime minister, a right-hand guy. The king's in the positional authority, but if you wanted to get things done, Naaman was the guy. His entire life had been around achievement, success, and it had worked out well for him, as we'll see in this area. But, and there's a big but in here, the big but's in the Bible, but he had leprosy, Now, leprosy is like, in the Old Testament, we know it's like, It carries the same stigma a lot of times that like cancer or HIV has carried in our world. It has this like, ooh, boy, watch out. There's ways to manage it, but it's going to be tough. Leprosy for them was a collection of skin disease that we just don't understand. You've got something about you that automatically ostracizes you from society. They had what were called leper colonies. You developed it later in life because if you developed it young in life, you just didn't survive. What would happen is you'd have numbness in your extremities and your hands, and then eventually they would curl up. It would fall off, they would die, or you would not know that something's hot, you'd touch it, it would burn your hand. It was just a really bad deal, and there was almost no way out of this, and it meant complete ostracization from your family, from your society. So his entire life, he had invested into being a successful soldier, high honor position, and now he's got this. And it's probably early on where he's still trying to figure out, how do I solve this problem? How do I buckle down like I've done with every other thing in life and overcome my lack of insecurity or my insecurity about this with just trying harder and doing something in this way? He right now probably feels for the first time in a long time like an outsider. You can't be within a certain feet of people, right? His entire life he's fought so hard to be an insider, and then he finds himself being an outsider. That is really a strong pursuit for us, is this ability to overcome being outside. We don't like being outsiders. We want to be insiders. And a lot of times success is the way that we think is the avenue to get on the inside of things. C.S. Lewis wrote an essay a while back called The Inner Ring. And he was an Oxford Don who worked in an educational system. And he had all of these experiences of in groups of, here's who's in leadership, but really here's who make the decisions of things, right? And so he writes about this inner ring. Here's what he says: I don't believe the economic motive and the erotic motive account for everything that goes on in the world, right? It's not just love and it's not just money. Those are two big things, but it takes other forms as well. It is a lust, a longing to be inside, which takes many forms. It shows up in economic ways and in erotic ways, but it's just really wanting to be in on something. You want the delicious knowledge that just we 4 or 5, we are the people who really know. As long as you're governed by that desire, you will never be satisfied until you conquer the fear of being an outsider. An outsider you will remain. You know this at your workplace. You know this within the school badge, but there's a group of people who are in, and that makes everybody else out. And your goal is to get in, and the way that we oftentimes see our way of getting in is through success and through achievement. If I can be valuable enough to this company, then they will value my input enough to be on the insider decision-making part of this team. That is where Naaman finds himself in this way. Naaman serves as a parable for us. Many people pursue success as a way in only to find themselves perpetually to deliver. But like everything else when it comes to these counterfeit gods or these idols, it fails to deliver. It overpromises and under-delivers. Verse 2, now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and taken captive a young girl from Israel, right? So they've invaded at some point. So obviously they're not like super friendly neighbors. That's going to show up a little bit later. And they bring back this young girl, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, if only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. By all means go, the king of Aram replied. I will send a letter to the king. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. Which I love this because we're always like, that sounds like a lot of that. I don't know what that is, but yeah. Shekels of gold and 10 sets of clothing, which we interpret as, it must be a 9-day trip, right? Because we always pack the one extra set of clothing in the bag, right? I love this. It's like, I read a tweet recently about some guy who's like, well, I don't know why. Me, always packing an extra pair of underwear in every trip that I go to. Also me, never having crapped myself ever once. I always think on this trip, I might crap myself. Here's one extra pair just to cover my bases, right? Hilarious. So great. The clothing's probably not for him. He's worked himself into this position to be like, hey, fix me, heal me, do something for me. And as a result, I'm not like asking, I'm not like at the tip of a spear do this. I'm giving you something. This is a transactional way of doing life because everything he's ever known in his life is transactional. I do things for the king, he moves me up the ladder of position of authority. People do good things for me, I move them up, right? This is how life works. And he brings that mindset into this situation. He thinks, I can bribe them in this way. Israel's king gets this letter. It says that he tears his clothes up because he knows that the Syrian king will not understand that this God, the God of Israel, is different, that he cannot command a healing for him. And he's like, Elisha works on his own thing. He's like, this king of Aram is bigger than us. He's asking me to fix his servant, his right-hand man. I can't do anything about this. He's not going to understand that. And as a result, he's going to think, I'm not doing this because I don't want to, or this is an act of war, and now we're going to go to battle, and we're going to probably lose. This is not a good situation for us. Elisha, one of the prophets, right? One of the major prophets in the Old Testament. Elijah, Elisha, two of the two big ones. Elisha hears about it and says in 2 Kings 5:8, why have you torn your robes? Talking to the king, why are you so sad? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there's a prophet in Israel. Just tell him to come over to my house. We'll figure this thing out. So Naaman went with his horses and his chariots and all of his stuff, his 10 shekels of silver and his extra set of clothes. And he stopped at the door of Elisha's house. This is where it gets so interesting, and I love this. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him. Elisha doesn't even have the audacity to go to the door himself. This outsider prime minister shows up with chariots and all this 10 talents of gold, all of this stuff, and Elisha sends a servant to the door. Doesn't even come himself. He's like, I'm busy. We're playing Catan. It's my turn. I got to go. There's houses that need to go down, right? Here's what the servant says to him. Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River, and your flesh will be restored to you, and you will be cleansed. But Naaman went away angry and said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot or whatever, and cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Which all of us are like, well, clearly they are better. I mean, obviously, right? We have no idea. But this should be the equivalent. The Columbia and the Snake are right there. Like, do you know the Yakima? Like, it's gross. It's 10 degrees warmer and nobody acts like they don't know why. Everybody pees in the Yakima while they float the river. That's why it's warmer. It's not true, but that's what we tell ourselves. Why would I go wash in the Yakima when the Columbia is clearly so better? Couldn't I wash in them? So he turned and he went off in a rage. 2 things problem with this, right? He's like, Elisha didn't even have the audacity to come and answer the door himself. Like, who does he think he is? Does he not know who I am? And then to have the audacity to have me go wash in a dirty river instead of a clean one? Like, please, I have dignity. That's not how this thing all works. And he was probably hoping that Elisha would show up and be like, wow, I'm so glad that you're here. Amazing. This is awesome. Yes, please, I'll take all these things. But here's the deal. I'm going to send you on some adventure. If you want this healing to take place, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go retrieve the broomstick of the Wicked Witch of the West, bring it back to me. You're going to have to take this ring and take it all the way to Mount Doom and then come back. And he would have been like, yes, adventure, yes, something that I can achieve to earn this. I'll take this ring. I'll gather my hobbits. We'll go. We'll make this sort of thing happen. It's going to be great. And then Elisha has this audacity to not even show up and then to ask him, just go wash off in the dirtiest river we can find. To which Naaman, I'm sure, is like, disrespect. And then also, you want me to go simply get in a river and dunk 7 times? Anybody could do that. Give me something to do. I want something to do. I want to achieve this. I don't want a gift. That's not how my world works. In my world, everything is transactional. I have to earn this. And then when I earn it and people say, you're lucky, you got good things, you say, take that word luck out of your mouth. I earned this. I worked hard at this. I achieved this. I'm not lucky. You're so lucky you live in this great house and drive this great car and have this great job. No. I worked for 20, you don't even know how much behind the scenes, how many hours I put in for 20 years behind the scenes of doing this. I've earned everything in my life. Do not call me lucky. This Naaman guy goes, listen, that's too easy. Any Joe Blow could do what you're asking me to do. Any child, go down to the river and wash in the dirty river. Anybody could do that. I want something great, and it doesn't work out for him. This is the salvation for all, strong or weak, good or bad. The Israelite God is a God of scandalous grace whose salvation cannot be earned, can only be received. This command is so hard because it was so easy. It's too easy. This is too easy. We don't like things that are easy. One of the issues that we'll have if an idol of success and achievement is a struggle for you is that Christianity, with this message of scandalous grace offered based on nothing that you've done for yourself, just sounds too easy. And it sounds like, yeah, that sounds great, but like everybody can do that. Like I want something that's like, I'm going to have to live a certain way. I'm going to have to read so much of the Bible every single day. I'm going to have to give a certain amount of my income away. I'm going to have to show up to church all the time. I'm going to have to serve, and I'm going to live a good enough life to be like, when I stand before God or whatever, he's going to be like, I can't do anything else but let you into heaven. I have no other option. You've been such a good person. And be like, well, thank you. Yes. Thanks for seeing that. I agree. And instead, it's a scandalous offer of grace to be like, you didn't deserve it, but here it is anyways. Well, let me do something to earn it. No, you can't. There is no great thing that you can do. A great thing has already been done, and it has nothing to do with you. That's the message of Christianity. Your salvation, the way forward, a pathway out of the sin and the brokenness that we find ourselves in, is not you going, I got to buckle down and try harder and achieve more. It's something completely different. It's a message of a God who loved the world so much, he sent his son to die on a cross for us. That great thing, that great sacrifice for people who hated him, even in those moments, he gave himself up for them. That's a great and mighty thing. But it has nothing to do with you. And in a way, it has everything to do with you. But in a more relevant way for this topic, it has nothing to do with you. And that is something that we struggle with mightily because we want it to be some mighty thing, some mighty great thing. Naaman's servants went to him and said, in verse 13, my father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? If he had said, take the ring to Mount Doom or whatever, you would have done it. How much more then when he tells you wash and be cleansed? It's really simple. Why not even try it? Why not just go with it? So he went down, he decided to go down and dip himself in the Jordan 7 times. As the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and he became clean like that of a young boy. And it's a really great story with a great ending, and he listens and, make a great movie and all that kind of stuff. And we would say, oh, good for him. Behind the scenes, that Naaman really isn't the hero of this story. He's coaxed into this. Who's he coaxed into this by? A servant person. A lowly person who has no achievement, who has no resume, who has nothing. The servants in this story, there's 3 of them, are all the heroes, underrated heroes of this story. It's the servant girl whose family was probably killed and she was taken back from Israel, who shows up in Aram, this Aram household, and her master is falling sick, and she doesn't do what probably most of us do, which is my family and my county or my city or whatever, my village. Good for you. Die. I hope that you die. I hope that this is something that you struggle with. Why would I ever bring a message of hope for you? I'll stay silent. There's no problem with me staying silent. But instead, she doesn't do that. She steps forward for the sake of somebody else and says, I wish, oh master, that you could see this prophet in Samaria who could heal you. The message that Elisha sends with his servant to go to this prime minister character who has the humbleness to say, my Elisha master is crazy, but he goes there with this message of this. And then in this final scenario, Naaman's own servants saying, come on, man. It doesn't have to be some might and Grady thing. Why can't it just be something simple? Why would you not just try it? Why would you not just go for it? Over and over and over again, and this would be actually worded out in the New Testament. God uses the shameful things of the world to shame the wise. He takes the underdogs to shame the people who are the favorites. He takes all of the people who are overlooked and says, your grace can come through you because you may be in the best position to understand it because you've done nothing to be like, you shouldn't love me. I don't know why you would. I've done nothing for you. And he'd be like, exactly. and I love you, and in those positions, in those times, those people with nothing to go for it, when they experience the salvation that comes through God, when they actually genuinely believe that God loves them, not because I've done enough good things to impress you, there's an understanding of grace that is so incredibly difficult for somebody else who is loved by a lot of people, but because they've been so good at life. To not want to draw that into this relationship, to draw in this transactional way of doing things into a relationship with God who doesn't operate in this way, who is not impressed with your riches and not impressed with your wealth or your position of authority or any other achievements of your life. Because he knows you. He knows your motives behind all of those things. He knows what sacrifice you made for your family to achieve that job or that stuff. He knows all of these different types of things. He's like, listen, you don't impress me with your achievements. And everybody who's been to this is like, but everybody's impressed with my achievements. And he's like, but I'm not. Those don't define you. It's something else. It's my love for you in spite of those things. And perhaps if we could wrap our minds around that, it's really hard to do that. In the same way, he would say later on, it's really hard for a rich man to enter in the kingdom of heaven. It's saying when your mind is so, when your idol is so wrapped up in your money, it's really hard to be generous. It's really hard to not allow your money to speak to your self-worth and consider yourself secure. And I'm an important person because of how much money I have. It's really hard for a rich person to get to that mindset that my money doesn't find me because they have so much of it. There's just so much to point to be like, I'm okay. Because all of this. I'm okay because of all of this. And in the same way, an achievement way, we would say, I'm okay. Look at all the things that I do. Look at all the things that I've accomplished, right? And God says, no, you're okay because I love you. Yeah, but you love me because of all this. No, I don't. I love you because in spite of all of it. It doesn't matter if you had this or not. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Everybody else loves me because I've done all of these things. Yes, I know. That's the world that you live in. That's the problem. You've made a good thing, which is achievement in life, into the most important thing, and it's ruining you because it ruins your perspective of stuff. And when all of those achievements go away, when somebody realizes later on it doesn't matter, when you think, well, you should be impressed with what I've done, and somebody goes, I'm not really that impressed, you think, screw you, right? And we think we're so mad at them. We're so angry at the world when nobody is obsessed with our achievements as much as we are. And God's like, my love for you has not changed based on that. It's not reflective of that. Your sense of self-worth and value comes from something completely different. Jesus, in his ministry with his disciples, goes through this all the time. I'm sure the disciples, when they first got on and they're working with Jesus, they're like, this is, he's done some amazing things. How could we go anywhere else? And he's healing, he's doing all these healings. And as they're getting popular and their crowds are getting bigger, they become the people who know the guy. They're the guys who know the guy. That's great. They're in positions like that. And I'm sure they're like, this is getting big. This is great. When are we going to start fundraising? When are we going to take this to the next level? When are you going to become king? When you become king, can I be on your right and I be on your left? When are we going to upgrade our audience? When are we going to stop hanging out with these slummy people and go into like the palaces and like the rich people? And Jesus is like, no. This is the lost sheep of Israel. This is who I've come to. This is what's important to me. Everybody's important to me. This is it. It's right here. And they're like, yeah, we don't understand that. He's like, I know. Because achievement's always been an idol for you. Because achievement has been something that I want something to look at and be like, I'm good because of these things. And God continually goes, no, you're good because I say that you're good, not because of what you do. You're good because I say that you're good. And my definition of it, because I'm God, because that's the authority that I've created all of these things, means more than anything else you could do to achieve it, to earn it, to get enough money to say it, to have enough, a great enough marriage to be like, I fulfillment in love, transcendence, meaning, and purpose. Those things come through life. God chooses the weak things of this world to shame the strong, the foolish and despised things to shame the wise. That's how this works. And may we be the type of people who, sure, achieve great things in life, work hard, are a good worker, but we do it and we don't hold these things up and be like, God, is this enough for you to love me? But may we go, you don't even care about any of this. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to do it out of response to the grace. And if I can understand that this doesn't define me, then I'll hold on to it loosely. And what can never be taken away from me is what you've said of me. Because these achievements may come and go. This money may come and go. This love may come and go. But what does not, what is static, what remains forever true is what you've said about me. May that be the thing. May that be the thing that provides me with a sense of meaning, transcendence, and purpose in life. May we be the type of people who, when achievements come and go, it sucks. I'm sorry. I'm so sorrowful for you that it's not working out the way that you wanted it to. But I'm not despair. I'm not inconsolable. I still know where my ultimate hope lies, and it doesn't lie in this stuff. Let's pray. Father, our prayer is that that would be true for us. May you direct and guide our thoughts even this week as we go through this week and we realize how much, perhaps, that we've relied so much on achieving and success and impressing you, impressing others, and all of these things. And it doesn't mean as much as we want it to mean. May we hold it with open arms. May we be good laborers. May we be good spouses and husbands and wives and employers and employees. All of those things. It's great. Yes, do it. But it's a reaction to a grace that is already secured, not in an effort to earn it. Give us the wisdom to know what that looks like in our life, the courage to act on it in your name. Amen. All right. Next week, we'll finish this series off, part 6. If any of this has interested you and you're kind of a guest or have missed because it's summertime and it's travel, you can always go to eastlaketricities.com/talks and watch the first 4 parts of this, or download the app and then have it on demand whenever you want it. And a couple of quick announcements before you leave. You should have been handed one of these on your way in or on the table right next to the door on the way in. This is a Connect card. It's inside on the front and the green side. It's spot for some personal information. If you're a guest with us, make sure to mark that box on the lower left-hand side that says first or second time guest. As Philip said in the video, we donate $20 every week, or at the end of the month, we gather the number of first time and second time guests, and we send a check to a different organization doing good things locally and globally. The initiative changes every month, but for the month of August, it's Second Harvest, which is a food distribution center in Pasco that works with farmers and food producers to get it in the hands of food banks and families who need it. So let us know that you're here so we know how much to donate at the end of the month. And then answer that question, how'd you hear about us? If you're new, we'd love to know who to thank. On the back side is a spot for some personal information, some next steps, as well as a spot for some prayer requests or life updates if you want. Or if you have the app, you can fill that out electronically as well, save us some time. There's a giving envelope at Eastlake's home for you. This is your chance to help us out financially to continue to create a church community for people who don't typically like church. We couldn't do this without all the generous people who make this a priority every single week. All of these things can go in the blue bins at the top of the ramp as you're leaving, and we'll make sure they get to the right spots. The only announcements that I have are next week we start our new service times, which if you only come to the 10 o'clock, it does not affect you. But if you are if you're kind of bouncing back and forth, or just this new service time works for you, next week we start at 8:30 instead of 9 o'clock. 8:30 and 10. 8:30 and 10 starting next week. We will have early childhood available at both services, which that means nursery, and the 3 through 5-year-olds is available at both services. Elementary and junior high will still only be available during the 10 o'clock. So adjust your family schedule. It's back to school. Everybody starts school this week. That's what our new school schedule looks like. We're going to be talking more about why we did this move, in addition to other moves that are upcoming, as well as you're going to get a glimpse into, we're about to send 50,000 mailers into our community in 2 weeks. If you come tonight to our Place at the Table event, you're going to be able to see like what that looks like and what communities we're targeting and what our strategy is for this fall, because we're in this post-pandemic, still sort of in this pandemic, sort of trying to figure out what that looks like. And so if you show up, we'll have dessert and wine, and would love to hang out for about an hour, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock right here in this room, and that'll be awesome. We'll have a movie on in that theater for some of the younger kids. And then if you have a junior high or high school student, we're doing a back to school bash at the Plemons House in North Richland. If you go on the Marketplace site or fill out your card and say, give me the address or whatever, we'll give you the address. We just didn't want to post it on the internet. We just don't want weirdos showing up at their house being like, hey, I heard there's a bash here, a bunch of high schoolers. So we didn't want that. So yeah. All right, I'm going to have you stand and we'll read a benediction and then get going. Merciful God, you must grieve over our broken earth as King David mourned the death of his disobedient son Absalom. Break our own hearts with the things that break yours. Make us voices in the wilderness that cry out for your kingdom to come on earth. Amen. May that go with you this week, whatever you're facing. Next week, part 6. Snow cones in the lobby for your kids. If we've never met, I'll be in the lobby. Would love to say hello and put a name to a face. If you could help us out, in order to prepare for tonight's event, we need the floor cleared of all chairs. So as you're leaving, would you just grab your chair? Now here's the tricky thing. These are going to be a little hard. You got to step on the back and pull up. You're going to try and pull it up from the front. It's not going to work, I'm telling you. Step on the back and pull up, and if you would just put them along the sides of the room, that will help us out immensely as we try and get one long table in here for tonight's dessert. Thank you so much for coming. Don't forget to pick up your kids, and we'll see you next week for OMG Part 6. Thanks, bye.